We have to make it.
Welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of March 7th, 2013. Just for those people that are just tuning in now, we had our public hearing this evening before this meeting. It was not televised. We reviewed the budget, specifically the summary that we have talked about. We did not have any public input. There were no public participants. So the first up on the agenda is to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the regular session of February 28th, 2013, budget and finance minutes of February 20th, 2013, safety minutes of October 11th, 2012, safety minutes of February 14th, 2013. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, Cole. What's going on at school?
The reason why I wasn't here last week was because I was going to All States,
Yes.
which was very, very fun. It was a very great experience. My friend Anne-Marie Champa also went with me, and we sang with kids all over Massachusetts. So, and it was a really good experience to meet people. But the director was amazing, amazing person. And she really, really knew what she was doing, and it was a great concert.
Wonderful.
So, yeah. And then today was also the blood drive. And a lot of students did that, including me. I gave blood. And that was good. I think we had over 30 kids do it. Plus, any walk-ins from the community that wanted to come in too.
Right.
So
Now, do the kids' parents sign a waiver?
yeah, I think you have to be 16 with a parent signature to be able to donate, and then when you're 17, you don't have to have a parent signature.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then today was also the first day of the middle school play. So
Yes.
that was really fun. I'm the assistant director for that. And it was, I was astounded by the talent that the kids had. Really, really, really good. And I wasn't expecting the first rehearsal to go so well, but it really did. It was really, really, really good.
And remind us when the actual performance.
It is the 5th and 6th of April.
April.
And the 5th is going to be a night show, but the 6th on Saturday will have to be a matinee because that's also the same day as the gala.
The gala.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Oh, that's going to be a busy day.
Right.
yeah. But we didn't want to at all, step on the toes. So, parents who wanted to go see their kids in the jazz band, and we had like 5 kids in the cast that were in the jazz band, so we would have had to drop them.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we
Worked it out.
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody that tried out got it?
yes, every single
Position.
person who tried out.
And
got
how
a
many
position.
did that total?
Thank you.
How many did that total?
I think 80.
80
Wow.
kids.
That's awesome.
But how great is that to have 80 kids try out
It was,
of
it
3
was
something?
Yeah,
my
that's
friend and I
great.
had 3 days to cast, and we were still deciding up to the last minute because of the amount of talent
Oh, that's
that
so
the kids
good.
had. It was so hard to decide,
That's
but
great.
it was. They're all really good kids, really open to just being on stage and everything. So I'm really, really happy.
That's very exciting.
My son Scott came back from it this afternoon. He was so happy.
Really?
He just had a great time. He loves the script. He thinks it's wonderful. And he hasn't had any, dramatic experience or anything, but he
seems like he does. He's so comfortable on stage. He's been acting
he's
for a
rather
few
on the
years.
verbal side. Yes, I know. But, so he's going to have a wonderful time. I can tell.
good.
So I just
I'm so
appreciate
glad.
everything that you're doing.
He was
You being
great
there,
on
it's-
stage. So that's awesome. I'm glad that he had a really fun day.
Thanks.
And we're in between sports seasons now. Unfortunately, are we out of all the playoffs and everything like that?
Cheerleaders.
Yeah,
Cheerleaders
cheerleaders are
are
Okay.
to I think states.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
They're in the States.
Yep. So I
Okay.
think they're going to do their performance for the school.
Friday afternoon, right
Okay.
after school. There's anybody who wants to go, if you want to see the presentation, 2:30, I think.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, it's supposed to be
Tomorrow.
really good.
Wow.
They're
Great.
really, really good. So
Yeah, to make it to the States.
yeah,
It's pretty
exactly.
impressive.
So and then I know. Oh, and then we had a couple fundraisers. We had dodgeball last week, which was really fun. Everyone always loves that. And then we had the 3-on-3 basketball tournament this week. So a bunch of kids from the school just played, and then everyone else watched. So that was fun.
Great. All right, moving along.
Busy person. You are.
He's very busy.
If it's okay with the committee, we're going to have the GAA turf presentation. And if they have people that would like to speak on behalf of the presentation, I'm going to have them do it at the time they make their presentation, as opposed to speaking now, which is our normal course, if public comment, if anyone's opposed to that, let me know. That's okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
We did it like that all the time.
So,
Do you wanna move up, the two present? quick
well, yeah, I
present-
was gonna say, we have Key Club first.
Yep.
So, Ms. Monjo, if you wanna come up
Come on
and
up.
you can talk to us about that.
Welcome.
Hello, for those of you that do not know me, my name is Heidi Monjo and I teach history over at the high school. This is Jen Killian. She's come with me tonight. She's the vice president of the Key Club.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you. So as the advisor, and the new advisor to the Key Club this year, we're seeking your approval for an overnight field trip to the annual conference. It's for all the Key Clubbers of New England. And it's going to be, I believe you might have the information, but it's at the Marriott Hotel in Springfield. And it's the weekend of April 5th, 6th, and 7th. A couple of things that I just wanted to note with regard to the financial report that I needed to fill out, the financial information. It's accurate that the cost per student is $150. And it's accurate that the cost per chaperone is $180. What I forgot to note is, as I was looking through the paperwork, it is noted on one of these pages that the parking fees are not included in the registration fee. So, of course, I would take care of that and look for reimbursement for that. And on 7H, it asked if meals were included, and my understanding was they were included, but only some of them are included. So we're on our own for dinner, but Friday and Saturday dinner, we will go to the food court and get some hamburgers.
Really good food, actually. Oh, good. Yeah.
So, Jen went last year, so I thought maybe she could enlighten the committee about what the experiences were there, so.
So last year when we went to the conference, we got the opportunity to meet with all different Key Clubs from all around New England, and we got to see the different kinds of projects and service opportunities they had been participating in. My favorite part of the conference was we got to go to this service fair where clubs set up poster presentations all around this big room, and you could go and look at all the presentations, and they were all about the big projects they'd done throughout the year. And by talking to the people there, you could find new ideas for your own club to do and new service opportunities. And a lot of the clubs were doing projects for the Kiwanis International projects, such as the KPTI, which is the Kiwanis Pediatric Trauma Institute, which offers help to children who have been in traumatic experiences and accidents, and Camp Sunshine, which is a summer camp for children with cancer and their families. So by seeing all these new opportunities, we could collaborate with other clubs and see what their thoughts and ideas were about them and try to bring them back to our own club. And so that was really cool. It also allows us to see that there are both global and local needs that we can attend to and help with. So a lot of times we had really been focusing on just local needs, but by going to this conference we saw that there were also global needs that all of Key Club around the country participates in. In closing, I really enjoyed the convention because when you walked into the room with all the people there, you knew that you were all connected in this one special way, that you were all working towards the common goal of trying to make our communities a better place to live in.
Great.
Right.
Thank you.
Just so that we usually approve overnight field trips at the beginning of the year. We set that policy, but there was a change in leadership of the
Sorry.
of the Key. No, not your fault at all. I just want to let everyone know that's why it's
Yeah.
coming to us
Right.
now. There's a change in leadership, so we just need to be flexible and make sure that we keep doing all the great things that we've been doing.
Yeah. It sounds like a great experience.
Yeah.
What grade are you in?
10th.
Oh, you speak very well.
Yeah.
So Heidi, does the budget change with the parking? I'm just trying to.
As far as the cost for the parking garage, I'm not sure
You're
what
not
it
sure.
is.
Last year
And-
we all just chipped in for the parking because we just.
Okay.
It's in Springfield, I'm gonna guess that it's not,
I don't think it was
It's
that.
not Boston prices, probably.
right.
So you all paid for it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be driving. I have a permission slip that I've created for them. And it's the same that Mr. DeFranco uses for the athletic.
Okay.
So it, has all the legalities listed on, if this is approved, they'll get the permission slips and, I will be driving them in. If that's what they want, and I think that's what they said they wanted, so.
So it's the 3 students and then you?
Yes.
I mean, generally, we wouldn't suggest that an advisor drive children in their own car. We would prefer that they take transportation, but it doesn't really make sense to get a bus for this number. And we did check the legalities of it and the liabilities, because of course we don't want to put Heidi, in any personal liability should anything happen. And so we followed all of the appropriate procedures, so we would be good to go on that.
All right.
I'm just curious, isn't the Key Club very large?
Yes.
And how do you choose which students attend? Is it the officers?
The problem is that it's costs $150 to go, and they're paying that out of their own
I
pockets.
see. Okay,
So that's why it's primarily the advisors that go.
okay.
So it's not opened up to the whole?
Oh, yeah, it is.
They could
is?
if wanted.
It is open up to everyone. When we have our meetings, we ask if people want to come, but I think it's a financial
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
issue. So.
Okay.
Sounds like a wonderful choice,
It does.
chance to enjoy.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us. That was nice.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah, give us
helpful.
a good, clear idea of what happens there.
And hopefully you can come back after and tell us how good it was.
Great.
All right, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve New England District of Key Clubs Training Conference attendance as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Fun, enjoy.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you guys, are you ready?
Can we
Oh, do you wanna-
do Donna's summer program?
Oh, okay, we're just gonna put,
Because I want to let her go back
if
to
it's
her
okay
building.
with everyone, we're gonna move Donna ahead of the turf presentation because, she has, parent-teacher
Conferences.
conferences in her building right now.
They said she's gonna go clean out the driveway.
No, I don't think that's the plan.
So is that okay with everyone?
Oh, yeah, sure.
These are just new copies.
Hires.
Color copies?
Color copies. We used
Everybody,
Publisher
right?
today, so we tried to make it a little
Ah, it's very
Very
nice.
Everybody
Very nice.
covered on it.
I know, really.
headful.
There you go.
So Donna, in the orange notes, I did explain to the committee how you've been running a program similar to this. And it's a little different this year because we're sort of going on 2 tracks.
Yep.
One is our district special education extended year programs, which Donna Straight will come and talk about on the 14th. And then Donna is running the sort of summer enrichment camp. So you have information, and this is really, Donna's just coming to, if you have any particular questions, any further need for further information. And I think we highlighted that it's grade 1 has never had the opportunity to come to this camp. It's always been sort of integrated with the summer program at Pearlie, but grade 1 will be able to come to this
It'll be
program.
incoming grade 1. 'Cause
Incoming.
Usually our
grade
biggest group is our incoming grade 2, because they get a chance to see the building, they get a chance to explore, and they get to know faces. So parents see it as a great kind of segue into September, so.
Yes.
Do you usually sell out? Or
There's some of them are really popular. The water is, and the Pembroke CSI are very popular.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
So those are, and Mad for Science is always fun because they do some rockets. So what they added this year is, they tried it a little bit last year, the field trips, but now they've added that people can come just to the field trip. So if you're a mom at home looking for something to do on a Thursday with your kids, you know, you can do that field trip opportunity.
Nice.
Just, so you don't have to go to
Wow.
camp, you can just go to the field trip.
Oh, that's
Oh, that's a
terrific.
nice
So I
opportunity.
think one of them is Fenway
is.
Park, which is great, you know, great chance to go in and they get
Oh,
the
they
bus.
do like the tour and,
Yeah.
that's neat.
What's nice is that they
kids get
link
to-
the field trip with the theme of the week.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
That's great.
that's very exciting.
Roman Stone Zoo.
Very nice.
Science Museum, so.
Does
Some
this
good
get
field trips.
impacted by Triple E?
I hope not. It didn't last year.
it didn't last year.
When did it really come to
It's
the fall?
fall. More fall.
When does
Yeah,
it end?
that's
During
where
the
it was right
sports.
around.
Yeah.
I think it was like the
Late
first
August.
week
Yeah.
that schools, that the sports opened, right? The
Oh, so
January
yeah, so
sports.
you're looking at August 13th, yeah.
Don't get
So Donna,
mosquitoes
about
any
how many
ideas.
kids could you take each session?
but it's.
Well, we believe
but
that we
it is
have
something to
to
be-
take at least
Aware of the
22.
possibility.
You know, that's our, kind of our point.
Great.
You know, if we get over
What's
22,
up?
23, we would have to hire more staff than we have budgeted now.
Okay,
So, you know, depending,
But it's 100% self-sufficient.
right.
which we love.
Or what if you don't get a minimum number?
Well, that's why we're gonna have to try and figure out, sometimes, it's kinda like enrichment, sometimes you have lower numbers, but other
Weeks are
weeks
higher.
cover it. So we're hoping. that
Okay,
we-
oh, I see what you're
You have,
saying.
a- you'll have a pre-register, a
Yes.
pre-registration, so you have a little sense maybe.
Right. And it's pretty consistent for the most part. Last year, the only week that we had trouble was the 4th of July week. So,
Figures.
which we knew, but, you know, that was a week we had actually planned on running it, so. And it's Virginia and Mike and Elizabeth.
And so, and you're not even doing 4th of July week this year, so.
No,
you're
right, so
good.
they'd like to stay away from that.
Yeah,
So.
When is this typically publicized? Like when
Well, usually it's a little later than this, so we're kind of ahead a little bit this year, but the reason we wanted to get it done tonight, even though we had parent conferences, is because we wanted to get ahead of the other camps.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, like, we've already signed up for camp, and the
Mm-hmm.
camps that,
Right.
on the lakes are the ones that sell out so quickly, so I was like, waiting, the day that email came, sign up.
Right, we
So-
knew, we were just kind of, so we're hoping to get this out, Friday or Monday.
And if this becomes something that we run every year, then we can pay attention to getting it out earlier. It's
Right.
just, if we don't have to come for the approval, cause it's pretty much an approved camp.
It's evolved over the years that I've been there. It's changed every year, so this is like another change, but we think this is gonna be really successful.
Come a long way, yeah.
it really has, hasn't it?
Parents on the Health and Wellness Advisory Committee, or just who have health and wellness, concerns, this food, glorious food, finding out where local food comes from and visiting a local working farm, I mean, that all sounds
Yeah,
terrific.
That's very popular too.
Yeah.
I like the
Alrighty. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the Pembroke Adventure Camp for the summer 2013 as proposed, as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Donna.
Excellent. Be careful driving back.
Very exciting. Do we have to do this?
Oh, okay,
to
yeah.
raise-
Thank you. We have one other piece of that, which doesn't directly involve Donna. We need to establish a revolving account to be called Pembroke Summer Camp so we can collect the funds and put it where it belongs. So Chair will entertain a motion to establish a revolving account to be called Pembroke Summer Camp.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Okay, so was that all that we were moving
Yeah.
around?
Yes.
Thank you. Now that we're sufficiently confused. Do you guys want to come up for the turf presentation? All right, so,
I think everybody got a blue book.
Yes. We did. Hi, Jim.
I guess I'm covering for John. I'll just sit here and look.
Come on.
Yeah,
Educated.
John's on the.
I was gonna say, are you-
IR on
I'm
the
sure
couch.
you
I am a graduate
He
of Georgetown
is,
High, so I just want you to know that before you ask me any
Injured
fancy,
reserve.
any hard
On
questions. So.
TV right now. Okay.
I'm sure you're well educated.
All right.
Well
Thanks for having
prepared.
us.
thanks for coming.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Perry. This is Jim Demento. And I'm on the GAA. I'm vice president of the GAA. And I'm also on the Synthetic Turf Advisory Committee. Barbie's on there. Carol's a non-voting member. And on the front of your presentation is the people that are on that group. So that was an advisory committee that was recommended put together by the selectmen. We'll be presenting to the selectmen on Monday night. Over the last 2 weeks, we've presented to the Finance Committee and got a very, very favorable recommendation, and I think it was passed on to Ann from Sandra, right?
Yep.
And then 2 nights ago, presented in front of the CPC, and I think the meeting went very well. There's a lot of information, there's a lot to cover, there's a lot to explain, a lot of pieces. And again, I think explaining the changes in the laws of SB 90. So we put together this book, and the first part of it is the mission statement, and I can go through this pretty quickly. But the history of where we're at and how we got here was around 2008. The town did a conservation recreation study. It's in here. And at that time, there was a requirement for 30 to 50 acres of active recreational space in Georgetown. And if you think in 2008, if you've been around the town, in 2008 in Georgetown we had no flag football. Lacrosse was at a very, very starting stage. We didn't have all the heavy-duty all-star baseball. We were probably, at the time on an average, 250 kids or 275 kids playing soccer. And here we are in 2013, and we have 25 flag football teams, 30-something soccer teams, softball, girls, all the way up. And all the sports have expanded. Babe Ruth last year, we had 6 or 7 teams, 15 or 18 major league and minor league teams. So all the programs have grown, and it's pretty common for us in the fall to have 450 kids playing soccer, 250 kids playing flag football. So there's quite large numbers. And from 2008 to 2013, what hasn't changed is field space. We've added none. But what has changed in that time frame is GA, through a partnership, we work very, very closely with Carol and the schools, is we've maximized all the fields, and we've done all the maintenance, and we've, investments. And there's a sheet in here, 5th chapter, and it gives you kind of an overview of what GAA put into the sports program over 2.5 or 3 years. We did $130,000 worth of investment, right? And then you get the labor that it takes to keep all these fields. So the partnership is good. But what we're at on a constant basis is our fields are inadequate. We have scheduling issues, and we're overwhelmed. So in partnership with Park and Rec around 2008 timeframe, we went out to everybody in town that had over 5 acres of land. And, would you be willing to sell the property to GAA for...
Yeah, actually, every person with over 20 acres got a certified letter. So we even if we knew there was not a chance, and so I mean, I just want to let you know, this wasn't like maybe this guy, maybe this guy. We notified everybody through certified letter.
So
everyone a fair chance.
Everybody had everybody had a fair chance.
Everyone to sell the house, or
jump
burn the
on
house
that
down,
opportunity.
But so just go ahead.
So we approached everybody in town, and we got one taker, and that was a 30-acre piece of property at the end of Stone Row. Gentleman was not able to develop, and it was a perfect situation for GA. We signed a letter of intent to purchase the property for $650,000. We would have donated it back to the town for $1. It had water, power, and all the engineering was done. It was just a once-in-a-lifetime deal, but it had one access in and one access out. And to be fair to the neighbors, my street overlooks that street. They didn't want 600 kids every Saturday and coming up and down that road. It's difficult. So also from that, I put a copy. The town enacted a new law here, whereas if you want to create and take your property to active recreation, you need to go through a new process. Before, you could do it without going through that process. So what that tells us is development in this town for active recreation is going to be very, very difficult moving forward. So that was the challenge. We weren't able to move forward. So at that point, we again engaged in the town fields, and we started again looking at what the options are. There was no CPC matching capabilities at the time because in the state you couldn't use CPC money for renovation, and that's what we were looking to do, was renovate a field. So we got with an engineering firm. There's a guy who's a baseball coach in town, civil engineering firm, and we did a review of the top field. And if you walk that road to get up there, you know one, it's a challenge to get up there. But two, to level the top field, there's a huge mound in the middle up there, and there's some photos in there that shows you all the athletic fields. But to level that field, what we didn't know before we did the engineering studies is the field on the left and the field on the right are 4 feet in difference. They're not matched up. So to level that field and get all that out of there is about $600,000. And that would be to grade, seed, sprinkler, so you'd have a complete surface up there. It's about $150,000 to get up there, because that road obviously would not allow for it. And then you'd need parking for about 60 to 80 cars. You'd have a gravel lot. So $600,000 to level it, $150,000 to get up there, you know, $60,000 or $70,000. At the point, you still have no lights. You still have to pay for backstops.
No utilities.
No utilities. No restrooms. It's not ADA compliant. So there's a lot of issues. So that project for us was kind of put on hold. And also, so you understand what's been going on in the background is in 2009, we changed how GAA was run. We decided at that point we were going to charge an athletic fee that was comparable to other towns. So we did a survey for every single sport, soccer, basketball, everything. And at the time, we were anywhere from $75 to $100 difference. We were charging $50 for every sport. So we upped our fees. You know, they were approximately $75. But what we created was a capital account. So for every registration, any parent that puts a child in GAA today, $50 of that goes into a capital fund. And then we have an investment account, and then we have a checking account. So, you know, we're doing ongoing 15 to 20, 25,000, and each sport is doing a lot of fundraising. So that's how we're doing the maintenance. But we're building up a fund here. But also we have kids that are seniors in high school now. Cole's family is put their money into the pile. They're not getting anything back for it. So people are asking us, other than the maintenance of the fields, where are you at? So we now have approximately $400,000 in a capital account. So we have a real good track record of saving money, and we have a real good record of how we're going to get there. So we kind of followed the state legislature. We were told about 18 months out that SB 90 had a real potential. And then we got a hold of some state legislatures. Carol helped us. We did a lot of checking. But communities like Medford, Everett, they don't have Lufkin Brook type projects and the rest of it. And they had, you know, the CPC money, but they had all these MDC parks that were in dire need of being fixed, recreation. So really those type of communities pushed this project through, pushed the law through. So it came into law, and now CPC can obviously use money for infrastructure, construction, the rest of it. They cannot pay for the synthetic turf. That's the only thing. We had it checked with town council. So once that green light went on, we really stepped on the gas. And we've had engineering studies. CPC gave us $10,000. We did test pits, there's pictures there, on the lower field. And the reason we felt this was our best location, you know, it has parking facilities. You can put lights there without affecting any neighbors. You can play football, lacrosse, soccer, softball, flag football, baseball. It's really a community location. It's a great location. So again, continuing to work with the schools, we went out, we hired a company called Gale Associates. They were the company that did the engineering and bid for the Taking Pride in Georgetown project about 4 years ago, which would have been about a $4.5 million project on the top field. That would have had been bonded, and it would have had to go to the town. It would have been, you know, money for the taxpayers. And that was a project from GA standpoint we weren't in favor of, because we didn't feel that the town should be paying for the athletic fields. You know, a third of the town will use a project. We just didn't feel it should go on to the tax rate.
One other point, and this is just general numbers. CPC can float a bond for 15 years max. We can't float a bond for matching funds. So we're limited to basically bond about $100,000 a year. So without money in our, say we have, I'm going to use 300,000 in the till now. We can only take the 300,000 and then float a bond for 15 years, which would be 1.5 million approximately. So we could not bond a $4 million project, even if we wanted to.
Right.
So, you know, for people thinking, oh, we just bonded through CPC, that's not available. We have a certain limit at which we can help on a project.
Okay.
So the options.
Mark, just for those of you who don't know, Jim is Director of Park and Rec.
Right, yeah.
And he's also on the CPC. So he's got a lot of involvement on this. And he's vice president or vice chair of this committee with Mark and John.
So when we went to CPC, we brought a quote. It's about a $2 million project that's soup to nuts. It's a complete, there's a photo in there. That's seating for 500, that's lighting, that's all the maintenance, the lining of the field, retaining walls, bleachers, dugouts for baseball. It's perfect, beautiful. So we also understand there's restrictions, right? There's issues going forward. So we're looking at a couple of options on the field itself. But what GA is committed to do is we've committed to pay for the field turf, which is $500,000. One of the big problems with the original project was you have to replace this turf. Originally, 4 or 5 years ago, it was around a 10 or 12-year lifetime. It's a 15-year lifetime right now.
Good.
But because we have the funding mechanism in place and we have the capabilities, GA is also going to commit that we'll put an escrow account in place and we'll put the money aside on a yearly basis to replace this carpet in 15 years. So that part of it, we can answer that question.
That was a
So
question I had, yes.
it's a big part of it,
Yes.
and obviously because you don't want something that the town is going to get
Right.
stuck with down the
Right,
road.
and I was thinking
So-
15 years, yes.
15 years. So we can easily accumulate the money to replace it. So you're starting with $1 million donation. You're starting in a situation where you have a great partnership already established between the schools and the GAA. And let's face it, it's all the same kids, okay? But you're also starting in a situation, and as part of our recommendation for the lower field, I put a field utilization study in there. So you'll see on that spreadsheet every field, every team, every day, every month on a yearly basis. But you'll get a sense if we go to town meeting in May and we vote, just say we start the project a year from May. It's about 4 months once you put the shovel in the ground. But it's going to take us 6 months or so to go through the permitting and all the rest of it. But if you start in a September season, how the school runs now, football is up on the top left field every day, varsity and JV football. They run that field to mud, okay? 5 days a week. It's useless. It's gone. So that team comes down below.
It's a safety
right?
issue too.
Right. So they're down practicing on the turf. At 5:30 or 6 o'clock, Monday through Friday, flag football is on Pembroke. They run that field to dirt. So they come over. They're under the lights. Friday nights, our football games are at home. Flag football, if you go to North Andover on a Friday night, they have flag football before and they have it at halftime. They bring 400 or 500 families just go and support the high school. It's a great atmosphere. So Saturday morning now, clinic in the fall is either on Pembroke or it's out in the outfield at the varsity baseball. Soccer clinic comes on. So again, we have no football at home on Saturdays. GA comes off of West Street. We only have 2 fields at West Street. So they come down all day. You play a game every hour and a half from 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. The relief from West Street will be huge, okay? And Sunday you'll have a similar relief. And it'll go like this throughout the season. So you'll play your high school soccer games on this field. Now what happens, high school soccer, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, high school field's underwater, it's unplayable, can't have a game, they call GAA. So at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, between 2 and 2:30, it's a full-time job. You got to get a hold of between 4 and 6 teams, GAA, that are going to practice in West Street Tuesday afternoon.
They're not
or Wednesday.
practicing.
They're off. So the high school
They
takes
call all their
that takes that field. So we're going to have a change because you'll be able to schedule. If you're the athletic director, you're a team, you're a parent. If you have a game at 2 o'clock in Georgetown on a Tuesday, you're going to play. Now you don't know. You have no idea. All the home games are going to play here. Right now our football games are being played all over the place because of the field. So it takes a big relief. It allows us to use the field, pretty consistently all the way till the end of November, all the way through. And then in the spring, right now, for example, most high schools that have a synthetic turf field are outside. They clean it, and the baseball teams, the lacrosse teams, they're getting evaluated, they're doing tryouts. our teams are an hour at a time in the gym, beating the crap out of the gym, hitting baseballs and throwing lacrosse balls all around the gym. So again, in the spring, what will happen is youth lacrosse will be on there at night. They're up top now. They're over Pembroke. They'll come down and use this field. So the ability to use some of our time from these other fields, we'll be able to rest some fields, the consistency, and again, the overall situation. Graduation, we talked about this the other night. Where else will it save money? For example, you know, the school department has labor for 2 days or 3 days to set up for graduation. All the chairs, everything else, it rains, everybody goes in the gym, it goes back and forth. I mean, I graduated on that football field. I mean, today you'd never schedule a graduation. But all you do is you set up the chairs for the kids. Parents would sit in the stands. You'd graduate. You'd have band concerts. You'd have community events. And then right now, in a period of 18 months in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, there's 90 of these fields going in. Westford's doing 3, Burlington's doing 4 or 5, Newburyport's doing 1, Triton's doing 1, Manchester's done 2, North Andover's done 2. I mean, Masco's doing 1. They're going in because it's 5 fields to 1.
Right.
That's I put a study in there as well in your package. So that's the difference. A real field that we have at the high school should be about $35,000 a year in maintenance for the varsity field. We're not spending $35,000 a year. It's just not happening. So I don't think you could actually spend $35,000 on that field. But the last couple of years, the maintenance department has been doing the aerating, and we put $6,000 or $8,000 worth of sand on that field. We still weren't able to play some of the games there. So it's a great project. We've got the finance committee is favorable. We feel that the CPC is really coming along, and we're hoping they recommend us. All we're asking for is that the school committee gets behind us, is that we go to the town in May, and we put it up, and we'll do a couple information nights, you know, and we'll get up to the high school, and people can come down and throw the questions out, give us whatever they want. We really would like the town to vote on this, because 1, the school's never going to get this opportunity again. 2, the town's never getting it again. And 3, we have a dramatic situation in this town right now. And, you know, I read the paper tonight. Your athletic fees are going up. This town's not buying any land. It's just not going to happen. And the reality is we can't take care of the facilities that we have now. So we have maintenance shortages. We have other issues. So turf is really, really the way to go. And we've met with conservation. We've met with planning. Steve Pajemski has looked at everything. And these projects are going, you should see the one in Reading. Manchester, I mean, it's in between a golf course and a river. So Gale, the engineering firm, feels, and they said they feel they can demonstrate that not only will this project be cost effective for the town, it'll be environmentally be a major improvement for this town, because you control water flow. It's, you know, the water goes into it, but it's got a drainage system. So there's a lot of benefits from that as well. A couple questions that we've been getting asked is, how do you clean the field, right? So there's a machine that's part of the package, goes on the back of a tractor.
Which we have.
Right, you hook a hose into it. It's $2,500 machine, and the field gets dragged.
When you say it's part of the package, what do you mean?
It's part of the total bond, total bond
amount that would be
package.
bonded.
It's included in the price.
$2,500
Right.
is included in the
right.
total.
We've got new scoreboard here. We've got stands for $500. We've got lighting. It's if you look at the itemized bill there, it's quite substantial.
Now,
And-
Mark, how often does it get cleaned?
Well, it's interesting because I asked the people from Weston High School, and they've had their turf 3 years, and they haven't cleaned it yet. Because when you get more than 3 inches of rain in a course of a year, and I actually was at
You
Phillips.
might be able to do better than that.
I was at Phillips Academy, Andover,
it's a good idea to do
2 weeks
once a
ago
year,
at a
once
hockey
a year
game, and I went out and I asked the maintenance department, how often are you cleaning this field?
So they have one?
So we're not doing it. Once you go over 3 inches of rain, the field's taking a shower.
Although I do know in Texas, I was reading articles, they do it in Texas because it's hot.
Yeah, they could have 3 or 4
I think it might
months
be
with
part
no,
of the season. It helps
with
us,
with no rain. But again, it's not difficult to do.
I mean, there is some maintenance, but it's a lot less.
Yeah, no, there is any. I mean, The reality is this driving this. If you took what the high school department does during football season, football and lacrosse season, in lining fields alone, it's probably 20 or 25 hours a week
Right.
in
Right.
manpower.
And the cost of
These are
paint.
permanently lined.
Right.
It's done.
Right.
And this field has a removable baseball mound. So there's no dirt. There's no dirt in the batter's box. And we went and looked at Dartmouth and Providence College baseball fields. And, you know, Ann knows my son's played on a ton of these fields. But they have a mound now. You drag it off. So we can use that area to practice for football, flag football, lacrosse. So we'll use the whole
Great.
surface all the time.
Yeah.
So I think it's, like I said, the SB 90 coming in within, you know, the last 6 or 8 months has changed everything for us.
What about injuries to the athletes?
Well, we have some parents here. It's actually one of the big problems, and I was not so aware of this. My son is not playing at Georgetown, so I'm not aware of it. We have a huge injury issue right now, and I think Dan could speak on that. His son he's part of Georgetown football, but let me speak on this. It's written in here as well. The occurrence of injury, ankles, knees, is substantially, and they have some numbers here, significantly less than a perfectly well-maintained, groomed, and grassed field. We don't have a perfectly maintained, groomed, and grassed field.
I'm just
I
curious.
have
where
some
does-
studies.
Hold on.
Saw you.
Let's just, just 1 second. Let me have him speak, and then I'll have
Just
you go back.
curious, where does that information come from?
They track it. I think they're probably it's like probably synthetic turf.
Actually, I have some studies here from Texas A&U and Montana State University that say there's 26 to 10% fewer severe injuries, 44 to 12% fewer concussions, 33 to 40% fewer lower ACL trauma, and 33 to 31% fewer ligament tears. Right, these.
Okay, do you want to, let's let Dan, let me just let Dan go.
So just to put it in perspective, Georgetown football had more knee injuries than they did head injuries in the last 2 years. Half of the knee injuries, or almost half of them, occurred just on the practice field. Last year, because of
Practice
playing
field is the
conditions-
upper field.
the upper field.
Okay.
Last year, because of between mosquitoes and weather and everything else, they played 2 home games. In the 2 home games, there were 4 knee injuries. Now, why am I here speaking? My son actually suffered one of them. You know, and here it is, 2.5 months, 3 months afterwards, he still has the same injury. I mean, he's going through it, he'll be fine. You look at what happened to Tommy Coy during the game against North Reading. Field was wet. We were down there for literally, I spent 4 hours down there trying to get that field playable, working with the maintenance crew from the high school. 20-something bags of turfus. Tommy Coy stepped, his foot went down 6 inches into the mud. Tore his ACL, tore his MCL, you know, and it's what we talked about the other night at CPC is all the other reasons are great reasons, right? Pride in town. You don't hear other teamsmen say, I can't believe we're playing in this pit. What you heard? You don't have coaches from Manchester, Essex, as an example, walk in and say, I'm not playing the Thanksgiving Day game here. We have to move it to Manchester, Essex. Those are all wonderful things, but for me, the safety of the student athletes is what comes first. And while I've talked about football, as Mark knows, I've been in the Babe Ruth program for almost 4 years, coaching. Countless hours spent just on that JV field alone, and for the JV football team, baseball team last year. You get anything above a ½ inch of water, that entire field is underwater. You can't play. I paid $350, I think it was last year, for my son to play baseball. 3 home games got canceled. JV games don't get rescheduled. You know, and the liability, at some point, if we don't do something, I can see someone coming after the town, because it's a known problem now.
I have a ref last year at West Street. Not even one of our, probably in the middle grade field says, we're not gonna have, I'm gonna talk to the refs, we're not gonna have any more soccer games in this field unless you make improvements. And my reply to the ref was, you should do it, because the town won't do anything unless you kick us off these fields. I mean, we have a major problem with the fields, and this is just this is allowing us to address the other fields to make them passable. and you know the upper fields, they're in dire need of help. And hopefully, after we put this field in, we'll be able to address those, and hopefully after this bond is paid off, start addressing those fields as well. I mean, we have a number of different places in town that we need to improve the recreational areas.
There's no question the turf field versus what we've got now is a huge improvement. No question at all. And as far as injuries are concerned, no question it's a huge improvement over what we have now. I guess I just want to remind everyone or caution everyone that there are also some very reputable studies that show artificial turf, when you compare it to artificial turf and good fields, actually with knee injuries in particular, increase. So I just want to caution people saying that it's a huge improvement across the board with injuries.
But that's artificial, not synthetic. The turf applied surface has changed dramatically in the last 3 to 4 years.
Right.
Crumbs,
yeah, you play when you played on artificial turf. Okay, I played college sports on artificial turf. We also played basketball on it because it was a cement base under a tarp and a burning material. The synthetic turf, and you saw the study. You can Google. There's 50 different articles that pop up. When you're replacing in NFL stadiums, they're not replacing because the cost of sod is too expensive. They're replacing because the cost of athletes is too expensive. And knee and ankle are the #1 issues in the NFL, and they're putting synthetic turf in because the change in this material now, the crumbs and the rubber that's in it, like I said, the lifetime since we started this project in 2008 to now, it's gone up 4 years. The lifetime because of the capability and the durability and the flexibility of the product.
I guess what I just want to say again is there's no question the turf is a huge improvement over what we have.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great idea, and I support that. Make no mistake about that. I just want to caution this throwing out of statistically that on the new fields they're a huge improvement injury-wise, because in fact, if you do research with UPenn, who is one of the top authorities with this, you will find 2012 studies, 2011 studies that will indicate this. So there's information on both sides of the injury issue. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
No, I agree. As a matter of fact, I looked at that, and they have a New York City study as well. One of the other things come up is the crumb material. For instance, the rubber, which is the low-end crumb, has a higher shock value for a longer period of time than what they consider the more expensive Viton crumb rubber. So there is a lot of information out there, and a lot of it's new. I think that if you should all, at some point, when you get a cup of coffee and want to goof off at home, spend some time, but make sure you're reading 2011, 2012 reports, because if you're reading 2006, 2007, you're wasting your time.
And I would caution, you need to find out who the reports are coming from.
That's
because
correct.
There are certain groups that are legitimate, independent, and then there are others that have agendas underneath.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that, there's a lot of information in this packet, but we're really on target, and our goal, like I said, is if we get the vote or approval from CPC, it would be nice to be able to say CPC, our school committee is with us, FinCom is with us, Selectmen is with us. Let's go to the town.
One other possibility is, in the course we haven't really talked about, is the summer. We can run clinics. We might be able to run the summer program for the kids with the GA, the Park and Rec, because we'll have a good surface. So there's some money-making opportunities, maybe a men's league, baseball at night, because we're gonna want to bring in revenue to
Any
get
tournaments, yeah.
tournaments.
Yeah.
Those will all be options. So we're gonna try. Truthfully, the best deal to make the field is maximize its use.
And the question about money for maintenance, money for, affording the utilities, that can come from, an account that we put together that basically we get the income for, and we can channel it back.
It also sounds like this would reduce our transportation costs. I mean, if we're constantly having games in other school
that would certainly
districts and.
Well, home field, when you have to move a football game, you lose, a few $1,000, and you got to bus them, and And when you have to, think of all the home soccer games. I think last year there was 8 or 9 played at West Street. And you're busting. You got to bust these kids up there, right?
Yeah.
To West Street. It's a very
Transportation
Transportation,
costs are very
right.
high and they
Right.
go up all the time.
So Phil, who pays for the maintenance of the field?
Well, that's kind of the skin in the game we put in. So we have a donation for the turf and a replacement cost from GAA.
Yeah.
The CPC and ultimately the town, they have an investment through a bond and through the CPC money that isn't new tax dollars for people, but it's still money from their tax dollars that's set aside. That's a huge investment for the
It's
town.
not an increase in their taxes.
It's not an
increase in
increase,
their
right.
taxes, but it's a huge investment.
It's money, it's tax money that's been put aside for these type.
Right. So
These and
what
other
we've
types.
said is that it would be our responsibility, working in coordination here to maintain it. So we have,
So we pay-
a grounds person, which we talked about that, the redirection of the way we're doing our buildings and grounds. So we have a grounds person that would be dedicated to this, plus another half-time person that could be brought into the process. We have the tractor, we have the new equipment that was bought with the CIP funds. And then we would save money, well, we'd have to still spend some money, because our goal would be to work on, in coordination with GAA and others, to slowly deal with these other fields.
But
You
when
know,
it comes just for the turf expense, like just for the maintenance expense for the.
Yeah, you would
We-
for
hook
the
the
department.
tractor up on a yearly basis, seasonal.
So
We
the
would-
school, would that
Wash it.
fall under our budget?
Well, we'd have to discuss that, right? So if we have,
It's
if
a
we end up with a
school
revolving
field.
account that, some rental money comes in,
it's
that could be something we would do, but we would have to identify funds. Right now, we spend a lot of money on field paint, we spend a lot of money on turf
spend a-
fix,
a lot of
because
money
we're
on
constantly
fields.
trying to
So the money
remediate.
we need to maintain the field would come from the money we're not spending
Right.
on the lines.
To some extent,
Except-
and,
yeah.
we may, depending on the circumstances, we may need, because we would wanna
It's
set
short
money
money.
aside for chemicals and,
Yes.
and that
It's
kind
really
of thing.
short money.
Probably
But
1/10
it's,
of what
but
we're
we
spending.
anticipate it being short money
Right.
in
It's
comparison.
really small.
Well, like
Again,
Mark
we-
said, 1/10.
The
Of
big
what
money,
you're paying.
if you really wanna talk about the big money, it's gonna be the electricity for the lights.
Right.
And that runs about $100, and I sent that to you, that's about $100 an event. So if you have a 2-hour, 2.5-hour football game at night, out of the $2,000 you collect in from the gate, it's about $100 worth of light. It isn't 1,000, it isn't 500. I've sent some information on that around, so it isn't unbearable.
It's a lot less than transportation.
Right, and we're talking about, we're talking, here it says maintenance costs are about 1/5 the cost of maintaining a natural grass surface.
Right.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're gonna
But-
blow
but
the
Rob-
leaves
but
off
Rob's
it,
correct,
you're
we would
gonna,
have to identify funds and a funding source for it.
Right.
Because the last thing we would want to do would be to get a lovely facility.
But that's
like this and
assuming
have it
that we
be-
don't have any funds that we're but
We
No,
currently,
we would,
we
currently
currently
have
use-
funds in
we
our
Yeah, we
currently
would
have
redirect
funds
the money,
in our
money
budget.
we have.
right, I mean, you cut the grass there on a weekly basis.
Right.
It takes 4.5 to 5 hours to cut the grass.
Right.
You can, and
Right.
that's every
So we're
single
already
week.
spending money
Right,
taking
it
care of
takes
those
2 to
That's-
3 hours to line the field with 2 people. That's
Right.
2 to 3 times a week, okay? So now, no more lining.
Right.
No more cutting the grass.
Right.
Yep.
Once a season, you hook the tractor up, put the hose on it, and you drag the
I
field.
would imagine also after every game, somebody has to go out there and sweep up any kind of trash and
You
debris.
have to now, you have to pick up the trash in the field now.
Well, we don't have as many games though, right?
So we'll be doing that more often.
Yeah, well, I think
Well-
maybe the games are at other fields, it's not that we.
So they-
Typically, you want the synthetic field to be more restricted to people walking
Yeah,
on it.
there is fencing here, it'd be gated. The school, the athletic would control access. I mean, you don't want Sunday people down there with their dogs running around on it and,
No.
Yeah.
and all the rest of it. But the unique thing is once this field goes in, there's not gonna be any time for someone to put their dog out there unless they wanna be in the dark. Because it is going
It's
to
gonna
be
used.
jammed.
Yeah. This was a very comprehensive report. I was really impressed with I mean, it's clear to me there's some very dedicated people in town who've been working on this for a long time and trying to be very thorough.
The most important thing you should know is none of us have kids. I mean, we started this,
That's the
I started
Well,
the
you have kids.
Park and Rec 15 years ago.
No, I have kids, but.
No, but none of
yeah.
us have kids that are gonna
that
benefit
are
from
gonna
this.
benefit.
Yeah.
Neither John Pingree or Mark or I have kids. Our kids, so we're not doing this like, oh, I want my kid to play football. He's long gone. This is really a good idea for the town because, I mean, and we thought when we got started in these different organizations, we'd be here talking in 1995. Well, it's not 1995 anymore. So, just to put that at rest,
Is it
we
gonna
are
be called the
we are
Perry
now
Demento
No.
Gift
looking at
Community?
someone else is going
Policy
to
against
benefit
that.
your kids.
If I could raise enough money, it would be, to me, it would, and again, had this
Oh, I know what
discussion,
you're gonna say.
it would be Coach Jim Collmore Field. He spent more time on that field than anybody in the history of this town.
Yes.
Hundreds of thousands of hours on that field. And
What-
if I could find the money to do it, I'd do it.
And he was my coach as well. And the one thing you have to remember, he taught a football program by himself. He handled the line, he handled the backs pretty much. And I tell you, those kids were pretty tough back then. It's something I'll have. I mean, he really did a great job with what
I mean,
he had.
that's something we as a town, we could put naming rights out to bid, you know, I mean, I'm
Well,
working
you
on
have a policy that says,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, I know you don't,
You know,
but-
it's always.
Yeah,
can be
you had a
reasonable,
policy,
know?
you weren't gonna put signs up at high school fields, and, you know,
I know, we changed
the
that.
world's
I
changing.
didn't say policy
But
could
there
be
is-
changed, I was saying
There is the opportunity for
Yeah.
opportunity on the sidewalks to put bricks, you know,
Yeah, there's other
good donation
things.
I was gonna say,
you know,
that would be
for
a
and
really
like-
good way
I know
of
Westford
bringing
is
in money
doing,
to have
Westford
the
does a
bricks.
little bit of that. So they have little, along the wall, they have little,
I think it's the adult camps, I mean, the adult leagues, a summer program,
Yeah.
you know, you can generate some money off of this.
Now, where would that money go?
Well, you'd have to set,
Revolving account.
Would it
yeah,
go-
you have to set up an account, and,
And
you
it
know.
would be used for whatever that field needed.
Well, I think
Right.
we should all talk about that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be something that, yeah,
You know,
needs.
I mean,
Does it go to the field? Does
selectmen,
it
yeah,
go
this-
towards another
does
field?
it go to
and
pay for
another
utilities? Does it go to
Let's go
another?
to
And also
athletics, the
the
athletic
idea
budget.
of the 15-year replacement, the selectmen have already talked to the GAA about getting together
Yes,
to
that's
work
all.
out, hash
I
out the
mean-
legal agreements that would have to be put in place for that to happen. So it isn't something that people have forgotten about, that they're an entity that
Yeah.
can
And we
handle.
talked about this
They're
with the
private
savings bank and how to set this up. I mean, just how far this has gone. Before this, the SB 90, John Pingree, who's watching on TV, he's home on the couch right now. We went down and talked to savings bank about getting a loan.
Yeah.
Because, you know, how can GA get a loan? We'd have to put our houses up. Because of, you know, who we are as an organization. So that, like I said, the CPC coming along at this time is really something. It's really a good potential.
I think
And,
Rob had a couple questions,
yeah.
we can just get
Yeah.
those. Sorry, Mark.
When I looked at the plan, it looked like the fields were knocking out a couple of parking spaces. Did you have a chance to look at that?
Yeah, that's the turf into the right corner. We don't have to go into the parking lot. Right now, the baseball field is approximately 20 to 25 feet shorter than this is drawn out. We're going to go deeper into the hill, and there's going to be some movement as you kind of adjust right now. But right now, our right fielder plays in front of the field goal posts, so the balls are not going. And there's a couple things. And Jim was big on this.
Yeah.
There's things that, size. You know, 350 is an official field. We're going to be at 320.
I'd like
You guys are all,
Compared to what we're doing, we're playing there. We played baseball in that field since 1976. You know, it's and 50% of the games have been canceled since 1976. So we're going to go another 20 feet out. We're going to have a temporary fence that's out there. And this thing's also changed. Last year in baseball, high school baseball, BB Core bats came into play. The fields were official at 350. So now, because the speed of the ball hitting the bat was, you know, a lot of injuries were happening, pitchers or whatever, they put these BB Core bats. The balls are not flying quite as far, but it will be a tremendous improvement.
I'd like to be able to leave that open as a point of negotiation event. If we have to take parking in that corner, that we would replace it somewhere else on that property. Because we may decide that, you know, it would be nice instead of having the right field 310 to 320. And if we lose a couple parking spaces to do that, we'll find a place to put those parking spaces on the school property. That's legal. I mean, because it would. When we,
those parking spaces are precious.
there's no doubt, and there is a place up by High Street. If you know, there's a berm up there that you could actually put additional parking.
Well, the proximity issue would have to be looked at.
We will if I have to go up there with a shovel, we'll find a place to put it. No, I mean, and
Yeah.
it will probably, and then worse, with my original layout, we would lose 3 or 4 parking spaces, but that isn't a huge area that we couldn't find. And I'll work with Peter Durkee if we had. I'm not saying that's going to be what ultimately happens, but there is some negotiation. My original concern was, and we thought that center field was too short. it's one thing to have a JV practice field, but theoretically with this turf field, you want to have a JV game field. You want a field that people are going to go on and say, this is a game field, not a practice field. So we are working those issues out.
And you
See if
could
we
put
can-
that varsity could go there as
You
well.
could, I
That's
mean,
a-
I went, when Jim came up with all the markings, I went out to 5 fields here. Rockport starts at 265 to 285 in right field. They have a hill.
hill.
There's all different sizes.
We don't wanna be running up
Very
the road
few,
against
very few schools, towns have exactly the 340. But you could play varsity games here very, very easily. The shining light in all of our athletic fields is the varsity field. But GAA puts $15,000 a year into that field. And we've put over $65,000 or $70,000 into that field. It's been all new turf, dugouts, all new mounds, all new sprinklers.
Clay
And
and.
you
Clay.
guys have put, what, 4 years and more into this, and a ton of work.
Started 6 years
Ton of
ago.
work.
So before I get to Trestle Way, we got to get a turf field here.
And so
I thought you were
just-
going down to the sand and
I guess
gravel.
Yeah, sand and gravel first. That's my next stop. Then Trestle Way.
I want to acknowledge that because of the amount of work you guys have done. So bear with me when I ask some of these questions because I'm trying to catch up. I
Yep.
wasn't part of that 4 years. The logical one question that comes up for me is, was there any consideration? I'm sure there was for just doing a football, soccer, lacrosse field, and not the.
We talked about that. It's about $250,000 savings. 2 light poles. It's not much savings in turf, but because of the hill, all the drainage has to be done anyways. But the issue is going back. We have 2 full-size baseball fields in this town. One of them is there. To move a full-size baseball field up to the top, okay, you got to remove the middle. Remember, 600,000, 150 to get up, parking, no lights.
So your net $500,000.
Why no lights?
Because you can't put them up there.
There's no
For
utilities.
$250,000, you can't go up top, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And also, you have neighbors up top.
I didn't know if that was a new
Yeah.
approval process issue.
No, it's just the fact that you're going to run into issues up there. You have 6 or 7 houses that border the property up there. But that's the main thing. It's the cost to get up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Versus putting
there
that
was
field.
neighbors.
And again, think of this. It's only a baseball field 4 months of the year.
Right.
That mound comes out, football team's going to practice there. If you didn't, you'd have a swamp leading up to a turf field because that's literally what that area.
Yeah, you know
comes
what?
to.
One thing that sold me was it's not it's where the little kids will play. 6-year-olds can play there. 8-year-olds can play there. It's almost a baseball. That area is almost a baseball field for them. Yeah, you have to put a few bases, but it's much better than having them play down the bandstand at American Legion, because that becomes a dirt pit as well. So
Oh, yeah.
you got that area, and you might even be able with the little kids. You might even be able to get 2 games if you get them in the right corners.
Yeah, you'll play
You know,
soft.
so
You'll
it is-
play girls softball there. I mean, because you'll have a backstop
bases
and
in,
and dugouts.
I guess
My goal is to
Right,
try
sure.
and we've been working trying to make it a standard field. So so St. John's Prep could say, hey, look, we got a championship game. Can we rent your field or something? Or in the summer leagues, men's league says we got a baseball team, a real serious baseball team, Babe Ruth. We want to come down and use your field. We can say, yeah, our field's the standard, and we're working those issues, you know. And like I said, we might be a little short on center field, but I mean, center field is not the issue. The issue is like from the home plate to the backstop, first, second, third. I mean, you can always cut a little bit out of center field and right field. I agree that if you're around over 300, you know, we have some, you know, that's the least of the issues.
so. Again, I guess trying to catch up to all of the time you
That's
guys
fine.
have done. The question that's going around in the back of my head is, you know, 15, 20, 30 years down the road. And it's the long-term question that's in my head, and it's for children who aren't even part of the town yet. And the question that's going around in my head is, while there's no disagreement that a turf field is needed, it seems like there's a lot that's trying to get pushed into this one location. And I can't help but wonder if, you know, some of it was done here And the long-term plan was to address the top and do it right. It reminds me a little bit of this, when the town had the issue with the sewer in Groveland, and it was a money issue, and it was an immediate need, and they chose not to tie into the sewer system. Well, at that point in time, it was the right thing for them to do. And I'm sure at this point in time, you guys have studied this a lot more than I have. It's probably the right thing to do for this point in time. But for the future, for 30, 40 years from now, you know, today, downtown, because of that decision, it's business. We're a town that generates taxes off property, and there's no commercial base. And that decision, long-term, has had negative effects over and over and over again. And that's just where I'm wondering with this.
I can address a couple of things. The current status of our fields in this town is a negative impact on this town financially right now, dramatic. Okay, and I told the story the other night. I moved 3 guys from the West Coast here. They work for me. They came here 2 years ago on Thanksgiving. I took them to a Thanksgiving Day football game. All 3 families went to that football field and toured our schools. None of them bought a house in this town. They went to Hamilton and Manchester. They bought houses that were half the size of what they could buy in this town because our facilities are deplorable. So that's a huge economic issue for us right now.
Yeah.
One, because families choose towns based on schools and facilities.
Yeah.
Right? And every town that's circling us, Ipswich, Triton, Newburyport, they've addressed their facilities at their schools. Secondly, 30 years down the line, let's go back to 2008. We did a recreation study. That's the 3rd recreation study this town has done. We have not added any recreational land. Okay, so we're not adding land.
Yeah.
And then ultimately getting to the top field.
It's a lot of money.
Right. We're struggling getting a bond in this town on CPC for $1 million, $1.2 million. We went up top for $4 million. It got shot down. We don't have the money.
Soundly.
Soundly, yeah.
Can I ask you one other thing too?
I think that what you say makes sense. An example of people buying into a town in the sports and that sort of thing. One scenario, and this is, I'm putting it out here in terms of how I'm thinking about this. One scenario is you come into the school and you arrive in your front door, and your first experience is the fields that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have about 400 plus lineal feet of retaining wall. You're going to have basically a large mat of green covering the entire surface.
Mm-hmm.
And possibly be dealing with parking and that sort of thing. Versus having one large rectangular space, which is for the soccer and lacrosse and football, and a grandstand that is truly ceremonial for a school that has graduations at it. You know, not these removable things and things that you move around, but you come in to arrive at Georgetown High School, and there's this beautiful facility on the right with this beautiful set of grandstands, and up top is being worked on as part of the big picture. That opportunity will be lost once these fields go in.
I don't know that they'd be lost, Rob. I think that it's part of the grand plan, right? So what Jim is saying too is that the CPC, because this is one of the things they talked about the other night, was what other funds, like the CIP funds, how could the CIP funds be used to upgrade a field or two at a time,
Right.
over time?
Right.
So the goal is to get the big plan,
Right.
right? And then to look at it in phases. So
What I mean by being lost is not that, because I heard that, and I think that's great, the phases down the road, but what would be lost would be the opportunity for your first impression of Georgetown High School.
It wouldn't be lost, it would be delayed.
But I think the view of looking here to the right, Again, I think one major thing has to be understood. GAA is given $1 million. We're given $1 million to play. We're given $1 million to play under the lights. And we're not given $1 million for grandstands. We're going to have stands. It's going to look good. This project will look so impressive. You literally have to walk these projects. We've seen 100 of them. They look beautiful. You're going to have your big blue G in the middle of the field. You're going to have seating for 300 to 400 people on the right. You're not going to have any mud. You're not going to have holes, water. It's all going to be cleaned up. You're going to have a beautiful retaining line, nice lines, an actual backstop that fits, and it's going to be fenced beautifully. But I think, honestly, people got to get past the dream. Okay, the dream of doing up top, and I have been to 100 meetings, easy, to try to get to a point where we actually can play on a field. Really do it. And we can't go up top. We don't have the money.
The other thing that
that resonates for me more than
realistic.
Well, here's I'm going to go with your dream because I had the similar concept. But my dream goes out 15 years from now.
Mine's more of a thought.
All right, but my thought's 15 years from now.
Not a dream yet, right?
15 years from now, if we have done the improvements in town to get other pieces of land, and they have a second baseball field or a third up there, then we say, okay, we don't need to put the baseball down. Then when they put the new synthetic turf, they take out the infield and they put a grandstand if the school committee wants it. And this GA pays less money to do that because they say, we're happy, we got 5 other baseball fields in town now.
Jimmy,
if that
happens, be at Union Cemetery and that baseball field will still be there, buddy.
But I'm saying, if that happens, but right now, we're really stuck on getting enough areas to play.
Yeah.
And if we had 5 or 6 additional places, we wouldn't be like
having this discussion.
Possibly cramming it. I don't think we're trying to work as best we can not to. Right.
Well, and I have just one other thing that I'm kind of thinking of as we're going through this funding. So we have like $500,000 or $400,000 in the capital account. I'm guessing that that's come from the fees that we pay for all the sports, from all the sports.
Yeah.
So, and I will acknowledge that I have 3 kids that have played baseball.
You're about $400 in that pile there, Ann.
So if I'm a parent that's been paying into GAA and I have this great field, but it's missing the one sport that my kids play.
And you can't practice football down there because we don't got enough space.
Right. So I'm sitting here thinking.
And you can't run 5 soccer practices there on a Saturday. You can't have 4 lacrosse teams down there. We are at such dire need that you're not just going to have a soccer game going on out there. You're going to have a soccer game. You're going to have something going on the side. You're going to have 3 flag football games going back to forth. You won't be able, like I said, there won't be any doggy walk time down here. From when school gets out.
Is there going to be parking for all the people that
Yeah, I mean, they're going to use the high school park.
Well, they're going to use what we have.
The dog park has to be a different project.
Right. From when the school bell rings till we shut those lights off. 5 days a week and all day Saturday and Sunday. It'll be
West Street,
jammed.
we used to stagger the games a half hour. Group gets off, gets out, another half hour delay, another group gets in there. We can't even do that anymore.
No, it's brutal down there.
And for people who think,
right, and
a
I
lot
live
of
on
older
West
people
Street,
are
so I'm
saying,
glad to see all the
a
traffic
lot of
will no
older
longer
people,
be
older
there.
people who haven't been around these fields and say, oh, this is a waste of money, go down on a Saturday, drive down West Street, and they'll get an appreciation of what they haven't seen in the last 30 years because their kids aren't doing it. We don't stagger games because we don't have the time. And you've said it's a mess. And I've tried to get more parking down there. We can't because it's on the water department property.
I mean, as GAA, we offered up concessions to anybody who would take it for West Street. We got a hot dog guy once. We got a couple people. Big issue where they can't get in there, they can't get out of there. Right? We have a concession stand. So whether it's the boosters or the PTA, think of this one, okay? If you're open Saturday from 7 o'clock in the morning until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, Friday night, Sunday, the PTA, the boosters, somebody, it's not going to be me, is taking over that concession stand. And it's going to work.
Starbucks.
It's going to really work. It'll be.
Is that your vote?
So what you said was that somewhere down the road, it would be a possibility if there was a magic wand with funds to a field the top does get developed as part of this.
Remember, they're going to have to replace the turf, right? At that point, 15, 16
Right.
years ago. If
Right.
if it was that we were all here talking, or that new group decided they wanted to do that, that option isn't off the table.
Right.
I think,
That's helpful. That's,
you know what I mean? I'm
that's
saying,
helpful.
that's what
Yeah,
I
do.
thought too.
I
I
do.
thought this is good for right now, at this period, and hopefully
And
I
hope
will be
we'll all
in
be-
retirement 15 years from
Right,
now.
no, we're gonna be on the rail trail, Jim, that's the next project, we're gonna get the rail trail.
I
We
think-
can walk in our sixties all the
I
way.
think the last, this is more of a comment down the road as you guys move forward, but with the state procurement laws of going out for bids for your designers, and I'm sure you know it, so it recommends, it doesn't require, but it recommends that you follow, I think it's 30 whatever, and that's based on qualifications and fee. And that you look at that seriously when you are thinking about who you're gonna work with to pull this together, because there are, and I can share this information with you at another time.
Yeah,
Perhaps now is
we're
not
gonna
the
have
time
to,
to
yeah,
do
we're
it.
gonna bid this project out, but again, right now, we've been working with Gale Associates. They have 27 schools going right now. So, they're prevailing wages, they're working with schools. It's not, whatever laws or guidelines that are required of conservation, it's not a curveball for them.
Well, you're planning to
No.
follow whatever procedures
Right,
are
and
required.
we're gonna have to bid this out, because it's gonna
Well,
be a
you have-
bond.
Well, you have to bid the construction for sure, but as far as the design, you don't. As far as the design, you could just stay with Gale. And what I'm suggesting is that I think it would be in the town's best interest and everyone's best interest for competitive fees, but more importantly for expertise. Because not only is Gale good, but there are specialists out there that this is all they do. And when you work with them, you work with just them. You get 30 years of one person's experience on the project versus a larger firm. So I'm strongly encouraging that you don't settle on
And we
one
have-
right now and you.
There's a company in town, Cork, they did St. John's Preps Field, right?
I've
So
heard them, yes.
yeah, and
They were-
I
been
went down
recommended.
and talked to these guys when we were in the free phase, asking for help. You know, I got tractors, and so we're gonna go. We went to Reading High School. There's a different group that did that project as well.
Great.
So yeah, we need
Great.
to get the best
Great.
for
That's-
the project. But at this point, we have spent money from CPC with Gale, and on the other side of it, they have gone way out of their way to really show us the benefits, how things work, how things get designed into waterways and all the rest of it. But they know we're going to go through a bid process.
Great, great. I mean, the last part is that when you're doing this, there's a fundamental difference between an engineering firm and a multidiscipline firm. And I would strongly suggest that the firm you guys end up working with has who leads the design, the profession of landscape architecture versus engineering, because the landscape architecture is what makes the total form come together so that it does look beautiful. And they do the grading, and they do the drainage, and they do the stormwater management. Two very fundamental different approaches to the design of these projects. So I just share that information with you.
And we had this discussion with Gail. Gail, we asked, could we strip this field ourselves? Could we do this ourselves? They're not signing up as a company. They said, we're not signing up to the drainage, the leveling, all the rest of it if you're stripping the field. I mean, there's all different pieces, but I think that part of it, again,
We should make sure that they have someone possibly on staff, or they
Yeah, oh,
have
they do.
availability.
It's important that they're multidisciplined versus a consultant, because then you
they're
have
way
different-
past it.
then
They
you-
have
then you
environmental
everything.
engineering on
They're
site.
all over the country.
Yeah, I mean, again, in going and visiting, and without them, them giving us 4 or 5 contacts and talking to how they managed a project all the way through, and we wanted to know that. Say, we got these numbers, we got this information. How good are they, right? So we checked into some of their projects and talked to people, but we're gonna have to bid it out.
Yeah, I talked to Westboro, they started out with Gale, I think on the first two, they were very happy. They liked the Gale person they were working with, the Gale person went to another company and they stayed with him. They didn't switch companies because they were unhappy with Gale. They just liked the person that was working at Gale at that time. So,
Yeah.
so
That
I mean,
happens.
even someone who says, "Oh, we didn't stay with them," but they were fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Meaning that's very much it, the relationship you have with that person
Yeah.
is a big part of it. Well, thank you for putting up with my questions.
So we're here for.
And thank you
All
for
right,
coming
so-
and sharing
Oh,
all this
thanks.
information.
Any
We
other
really
questions?
appreciate
Do
it.
you guys have
Really
any
Where'd you
appreciate
play
it.
football?
No, this was.
I didn't know. I didn't play
You-
college football. I graduated from Georgetown.
Oh, I'm sorry, I got that.
No.
Do you guys have questions, concerns, issues? All right. Just for the committee, what we're voting on is to support the project. Because we have a town, like a town committee that's in charge of it, that's what we voted on in December to follow their recommendation and their lead on it. So what we're doing now is we'll vote whether to support the field as presented, and then we'll allow it to go to the voters in the spring to say whether they approve the use of the CPC funds for this project. And Sandy did note that they got support from FinCom, which was kind of surprising because I know
They were down on it.
They were down.
She was fantastic. We started out with 10 minutes. We got 45 minutes of their time. We answered a lot of questions, and I think we really got some real supporters there.
Yeah, and I think one of the parting comments was that the thing that they really got their arms around and they appreciated was that a project like this has such a broad impact on the town. It's not to say that, you know, the use of CPC funds hasn't impacted the town in a positive way in the past. It has. But this really addresses a need that the town has. And it impacts like 3,000, I mean, we have 1,600 students in our schools. It's going to impact all of them in some manner,
Right.
as well as other communities being able to come here and play different games and whatnot.
Yeah, and I just like to, since we're on TV, anybody in town, no, but use the opportunity. Anybody in town who's really set against this, because I know there's some people on the finance committee. They were saying we're gonna go in, we're gonna chew this project up, and after listening to the facts and listening to the numbers that the GA gave them, 3 of them came out of that meeting and said, "I've been turned. I now know the facts on this." So if someone is really, you know, neighborhood adamant, talk to the GAA, go to a GA meeting. When you see the facts, you'll see that this is a cost-effective solution. A lot of people don't really realize that, but it is.
And it's a use of CPC funds. You're
Right.
already paying CPC within
Right.
your tax rate. It's
Right.
not an increase to that. It's not going to go up when we do the bond. It's not doing
Correct.
anything to do with
Yeah,
that.
and if we get CPC approval, we go through the selectmen on Monday, and it gets where it's gonna be for a town vote in May, we will publicize, we'll put it in the paper, we'll put it out on email blast, we'll have at least 1, if not 2, information nights, where people can come up to the high school and
That'd be great.
yeah, we'll go through it
That'd be
in
super.
detail.
Cheryl,
We'll have environmental people there, or whatever we have to have, and we'll go through it.
Great.
With
Look forward
regards
it.
to the vote and voting to support versus voting to approve and the school committee's role in that, I know my question to you there was late in the day.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you had any opportunity to look into that. Or
Well, I think, in your email, you had mentioned speaking to MASC about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what the GAA is looking for, right now is really just a show of support that, because they're
non-binding
looking at being able to go to CPC and say, just as
Go to
they
the
said.
selectmen.
And Board of
say,
Selectmen.
you know,
And I think the role of the school committee in terms of, and I think Ann wrote it down, there's sort of 2 purposes of why a school committee would take a vote on this project.
Right. Whether is the impact on the physical plant.
Right.
Right.
So
That's
how
your
it would, that's our jurisdiction. So how it would impact that. And secondly, the impact on our operating budget.
Which you asked questions about, well,
Right.
would it be maintenance costs? How
Right.
would we,
And
So we've,
that was the vision.
right, exactly.
so what we've done is the other key thing to remember is that we have a town committee that was established, and we voted on 12/6. I had Laura check this because I couldn't remember when we did it. So we voted to agree to support the installation of a field, provided that such a field is recommended by the town turf committee. Because the donation is being made to the town, and it's a town field. It is under and I know it doesn't make sense, but technically we don't control the field per se. We have responsibility for it, but the donation is being made to the town, and it's being led by a town committee, much like the school building committee, where it comes to us for support and recommendation. Where we voted to rely on the town turf committee, for lack of the proper name.
Stack.
Stack, excuse me. Does that make sense?
That does. I didn't recall that we voted on it that way, but I suspect you've got it there. I
Yep,
thought what we did was allocate, we voted to authorize them to proceed with going ahead with that, but I didn't think we gave them the authority to vote for, if they say yes, then the school committee is saying yes.
Yeah, we voted to agree to support the installation of a turf field at the high school, provided that such field is recommended and approved by the town's committee that has been established to study and oversee the project.
And you also voted to support the beginning of a
Yeah,
a particular
That was the same
advisory
night
committee.
that I went on.
yes,
Voted on.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
Well, is there a way we can talk about this again later or something? Because I'm not so.
Well, they'll
I
become,
don't
I
wanna
mean,
get into it now.
what's gonna happen is, what we're doing
Right.
tonight is we're saying the school committee supports the project, and we're allowing them to continue on to get support from the other groups within town, and then bring it before the voters to see whether they approve the use of the CPC funds. That's what we're doing.
If they get
If-
CPC approval, which. we're-
Exactly.
Well,
That-
I think too, going to the Board of Selectmen on Monday, if you go there and say you have FinCom approval and you don't say you have school committee approval, I think that would be a really, not a great thing. I think we need to be at that meeting Monday night
Yep, I
with,
agree with you.
with the support of the school committee, since it is on our, so it's
Right.
a town field on our property.
Right, and the donation would be
So-
made to the town.
Correct.
Right.
I know it's a lot of moving pieces, and we still have responsibility for the fields, and it is our responsibility to make sure that an engineering / architectural firm, design firm, whatever it is that's going to be responsible for the field, takes into account the existing buildings and structures that are there and the impact that any changes to those fields would have.
Those will be open meetings with review, and then, someone, Barbie would be on that committee. We also, Peter Durkee on that committee, who's very familiar
And
with
you've-
contracts, and.
And you have Mike Anderson,
is
our
on-
facilities
right,
guy.
is-
And then
is-
Sandy.
Right,
Right.
is on that committee itself, right.
But when there's more design information, Mark,
yeah,
and more
there's-
that, you wouldn't have a problem coming back to the school committee. I
No.
think that's what Rob's saying.
Yeah.
Because he wants to make sure that, before final decisions are made, that if it's going to impact the facility here, that he'd like the
I mean,
people
there
to
should be
be
a
in the
final
loop.
design at some point, and I
Yeah.
think at that point.
And we'll have
school
budget,
committee
I mean, we're
should-
gonna,
School committee have to approve it.
Sure.
and we'll have operating budget issues, because we'll
I mean,
need to know
the
that.
Right now, we're in a concept phase, we're pretty close to know what we're doing design-wise.
As long as that's clear that what we're approving is this idea, basically, and that we're not approving the final installation of a plan.
No, but the one thing that,
But I don't think the
Well, you
school
sort of
committee would
already
do that.
voted on.
What?
I don't think the school committee would do that, though. That would be the town committee.
But I think, and this is, I don't know, but I in talking with Mike Gilbert, I get the impression that his advice was to ask our attorney, Naomi, if we as a school committee, should be taking a vote to approve it, because it does fall into our budget and it does fall under our jurisdiction with the facilities. So it's just, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know. This is
Right,
what I
but
mean.
with,
But we can get that information, but we probably can't resolve it tonight, because
Correct.
I have to
That's
get the
why I'm
information.
asking-
But I've got
and
it on a note.
and I-
so
That's why
to
I'm
look
asking,
into.
can we talk about it later, or?
And
Yeah,
I
I'll
think
get
it
some
also,
information.
I think it'll also be something that if we engage Naomi, that she needs to speak with town council to find out, to go that route. But I think the issue, though, is that we have a town committee that we established to do this, and much like the school building committee, they come back and forth to us with grade configuration issues, with all the other things that we had to vote on. I just can't remember what they were now. So there's back and forth, and that's when we do our voting. But so as it would impact the physical plant and the operating budget. As you look at the operating budget, we're funding maintenance of the fields right now in some way, shape, or form, whether it's lining or cutting the grass. And if you read the information, it says that we're going to be 1/5 of
I think
that.
this would benefit the
So-
operating budget.
My simple way of doing math is that if you say these numbers are off by a factor of 50%, it would be would have a 50% savings of what we're saving, of what we're spending right now. So then it gets back to the plant. So what's the impact on the plant? We're relying on the turf committee to put it out to bid, to select the right engineer, the right everything. And then it would come back to us and say, here's the plan, yay or nay. And remember, we voted one committee member on. We have Carol as a non-voting member.
And Mike Anderson.
And Mike Anderson
is a voting member.
Mike Anderson is a voting member. So we're represented in that.
I mean, once CPC reviews this, Rob, and let's say CPC gives the blessing to it, right? And it's been to FinCom, it's been to school committee, and then it's going to come up pretty quickly whether or not it gets a warrant. It's a warrant article, right? So you're going to end up having a few meetings in between that time, but if you're asking, does the school committee get to review and approve everything in its final form? I mean, I don't know. We have to look at the timing of that, but I have a note there, and I will get back to you on it.
Thanks.
But I think the hope of the STAC committee, and it's been the message to all the boards that have been having discussed this, is they really want to see it go to the voters. They're really hoping that nobody, stops it. That everybody can in concept think that this is a good project for the town and that they'd like to see it go to the voters.
I hope I'm.
And then if the voter says no, then that's the will of the people.
I hope I'm clear where I'm on board
Yeah.
with that
Yes.
completely.
Okay,
I mean,
think
to
that's
get
what
it to
Ann's
the town
getting.
for voting
Yeah.
on it.
Okay, you just want to know what the school
But-
committee's responsibility is.
In terms of a final vote or not, and
Okay.
a vote that
I got it.
matters or just support. Yeah.
Remember, there's been a lot of committees that this isn't the perfect, I mean, Conservation Commission, we're gonna be close to some wetlands, but we're already there now, so there's a lot of committees that have little issues that are,
They'll get
Park
resolved.
and Rec, we don't have any really major, play in this. We're gonna have to slow down all our potential projects for the next 10 years for bonds. But all the committees, even though they're not recreational bonded, realize this is a good project for our town. It really is. It's gonna help the community. It's gonna do something to stabilize our fields, keep our like he said, all the neighbors are making improvements. 10 years ago, Masco was in dire need of improvement in the school. No one wanted to pay for it. Property values went down, and goes 20 million. So we're in a fight with all the other communities to make our community at a standard with them, and this will be a way to approach that. I'm not saying we're gonna accomplish that.
Can I ask, so, Monday night, I'm gonna be sitting here at 7:00. Am I telling the selectmen, the school committee
They're
isn't?
gonna vote.
Wait,
on
we're
it.
gonna vote.
Okay, yeah.
Kinda
Yeah.
got lost in this process here. All right?
So yeah, that's why I went on the whole, what we're voting for,
Right.
is to support, the project, and then it'll allow, it'll allow the turf committee to continue on to get, it on the warrant, to allow the voters to decide whether they want to allocate the CPC funds or not.
Correct.
And then we get into the nitty gritty of who does what and what the approval and review process is.
Or the wording of the warrant, if you wanna address that.
Right.
Right.
So the chair will entertain a motion for the school committee to support the turf project as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thanks, guys.
So on Monday night, you can go and say,
What was the vote?
oh no. On Monday night, you can go and say that you have our approval.
Thank you.
And it was a 5-0 vote.
My only concern is Mark's friends might move to Georgetown now. That's
Yeah,
my-
there you go.
Well, thanks for telling us
Yeah,
that
they
after
worked
the
for me, they're a
vote.
little with you.
We would welcome them.
You would.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, moving right along. Okay. So, superintendent's report?
Yeah, I don't
Is
have
there
anything, but I would just point out, I hope you had a chance to read the, under 6C, the NIASC report. They commended the town on appropriating, the funds for the school and for the $85,000 for the feasibility study. And actually, they didn't have any further recommendations. They did continue the school's accreditation, did continue the warning because they said they do that until all concerns are satisfactorily resolved. Peter's beginning a process and has been engaged in that. We'll put him on another agenda coming up, and he can talk about what the process is getting ready for the next accreditation. But I thought it was also interesting where it says, school's accreditation status will be reviewed when the committee considers the pre-self-study report, which made me think that maybe they might review our accreditation and perhaps consider the warning status prior to everybody finally moving into the school. That's kind of where I was thinking they were going to go. So I think that's good news. Peter and his staff worked very hard to work with the liaison and to get this process continue to make it improve, as well as to start the new process. So we'll get more information from Peter. But I just wanted to make sure that you saw that this was the latest report and that they did commend the town on the funding that they have put forward and did not make any further recommendations.
Peter, just a question for you. I don't want to put you on the spot. Substantive change in policy, the last bullet from the bottom, inordinate user fees. I'm not expecting you to know what it is. Does that concern you based on the changes that were just made? No. No? Okay.
No, because they're lower than the last time. No matter with the increase, they're still lower than the last time we ordered.
Okay, fine. That's true. That made me nervous when I saw that.
That's right.
On there.
I'm like, I'm nervous too.
To me, it's inordinate, but maybe not to others. Okay.
Okay, so we can do the budget.
All right. So, next up is to adopt the budget. We do that in the regular session. We had the public hearing with a packed room, lots of public input, so I'm going to take that all as passive consent, and that everyone is thrilled with our budget. So,
widespread agreement.
Yeah, Pam, that was good. Widespread agreement. So at this point, I think the best thing to do is just take a vote on approving our overall budget number that we presented to FinCom, that we've discussed for the past few weeks, that Budget and Finance has talked about for probably months at this point and know it by heart. Unless you guys have any further discussion or commentary that you want to go through. No? All right. So, just flip to make sure I get, what tab is that? D. Sorry. Forgot. All right. So the chair will entertain a motion to adopt the FY 2014 budget as presented in the amount of $13,189,080.
No, 89,000.
$13,189,893.
Right.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last year, Jim had us.
You could.
Do you want us to vote the salaries as well? He had us do
It's making a difference to me. I did break it down if you wanted to do it that way, but it doesn't make any difference.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
You
the
can-
salaries would be 10,934,079.
Yep.
Okay. So what we're doing now is just voting the separate pieces of it, from a technical standpoint. So the chair will entertain a motion to approve the salaries included in the overall FY14 district budget in the amount of $10,934,079 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You don't have that number. I have it written down if you want it. Because we segregated out the sped.
Thank you. And that's why I'm like looking at it going, I can't do that in my head.
I bet you could.
Yeah, I bet you could too.
I knew it was 13. I knew it was 13 too, but I couldn't break it down. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the non-salary line item of $2,255,814 for the FY14 budget as presented.
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. What else do we have?
Just the subcommittee report.
Any
donations.
Are there any subcommittee reports? I'm just gonna say, are there any, because we just met last week.
Yeah, that's right.
None?
We haven't,
Yeah,
None.
no, we have
Okay.
meetings scheduled.
we have a meeting scheduled on the Wednesday, the 13th,
The
a governance
governance.
meeting, and we're gonna discuss AUP, policy acceptable use policy, and what was the other policy? Lice.
Oh, lovely.
And we also have a safety meeting scheduled, with the police department and the fire department on Thursday, March 14th,
Perfect.
9 a.m.
All right, old business.
We just did that.
Yeah, no, I had one other item for old business.
Oh, okay.
We have to sign the warrant every 2 weeks. And Julie sends out an email, like usually Monday, Tuesday-ish, but we've been having trouble getting signatures. Everybody please check your email and respond. Because the biggest thing is she'll call me and say, I don't have signatures. And she's like, and no one's responded. So I don't know if people are out of town. I know people travel. I know people are busy. So check your email once a day and please respond to her. If you don't know and you can't commit, just say, I'm traveling, I'm whatever, and I can't commit. So she'll go down the list and say, please come in and please do whatever. She's really good at leaving it out. It used to be a bookcase, it's a bench now. So if you go to the side door and ring the buzzer, they'll let you in and you can go in and sign it.
Oh.
So just, her note to me was, have them please at least respond so I know what to do. All right, that was it for old business, because we already adopted the budget. The acceptance of a Pembroke donation.
Right, we have a couple of Pembroke, Pembroke donations.
And once again,
Yeah, one is from Mr. and Mrs. Cobb, who generously donated $200 for the purchase of an iPad. So we really appreciate that donation, and I urge you to accept it.
so the chair will entertain a motion to accept the $200 donation for an iPad from the Cobb family with gratitude.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next is another Pembroke donation.
Actually, it was a
The
fundraiser
Georgetown.
done by the Georgetown Building Supply and
Oh, it
Stone
was
Yard.
Pearlie and Pembroke. Yep.
They ran a fundraiser, and they decided to, they were raising funds in memory of Sandy Hook. And then they have forwarded these funds to be used both at the Pearlie and Pembroke School. So it was a $150 donation.
That was very nice
It was
of
very
them to
nice.
Oh,
do
very
that.
nice. So the chair will entertain a motion to accept the $150 donation from the Georgetown Building Supply and Stone Yard for Pearlie and Pembroke schools with gratitude.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Once again, the generosity, I don't think we've had a week that we haven't had a donation.
I think you're right.
Which is
Very
just amazing
wonderful.
to me. And it's very, very much appreciated. Okay, next is the Baker Adams process and timeline. So Laura included a summary of the proposed dates. The big thing with this is to use graduation as your end date. You have to be able to award them on graduation and move back from there. So it looks like we get the applications on May 10th, so it looks like you could have it before the 5/23 meeting, if that works for everybody. Or you can have a separate meeting.
I know, that's what I was hoping to do, is have a separate meeting.
Okay.
Because I think last year I don't think we, it just seemed like we were a little pressed on time.
I
So
agree.
maybe a separate meeting,
Okay.
because then I think we were like 20 minutes into the start of our school
No,
committee
you're right.
meeting.
Yep.
It always was a separate meeting,
Yeah.
and then I think because remember, it was a kind of a long-standing committee, everybody was sort of familiar
Yeah.
with the process,
Yeah.
so I think that's why they went to before the meeting, because
Yeah.
it was, kind of an established process, but
Yeah.
you remember, we got a lot of new people, so.
Yeah.
And you'll have
you
a
know,
new member.
So we probably should go and do a special meeting. for
So
it.
the meeting, the May meetings are the 9th and the 23rd. So you're going to receive the packages on the 10th
Of April,
of May.
of May.
Yes, so you would, you really have,
Well, let's see, you have to have it.
Um,
How much time do you feel you need to read them? I guess that's the That's the question. So if you got them on the 10th and you had the week of the, would you prefer to have a meeting the week of the 13th, knowing you have a meeting the following week, or would you prefer to have 2 meetings on the week of the 20th?
So we get them on,
I guess that's the question, right?
You're gonna receive
Get 'em
you're
on
gonna
the
receive
10th.
the applications on the
The
10th,
10th.
which is a Friday.
Right.
I would like to have a week to review, to read the applications.
Okay.
I think a full week is necessary for me. Anyway, if we have the same volume that we had last year,
It's a lot of reading.
It
it is
is.
a lot of reading.
And you read
I
the
need to spread
essays
it
and you
out,
want-
Yeah.
and I know that weekend, I may not be in town.
Okay.
So,
So it looks like you're looking at 2 meetings during the week of the 20th.
Okay.
You have a regular meeting on the 23rd. So the 20th, 21st,
That's a really,
22nd.
there's a lot of school, there's like an
A lot of
art and
school
film
events.
festival on the 21st, which is, good to go. There's the high school chorus and chorale on the 22nd, and then with the school committee on the 23rd. Monday, the 20th is a possibility for me, but I don't know if it is for others.
It is for me.
It does not matter for me.
You don't wanna come back and,
Are we having it
I am
at
merely
Pearlie?
facilitating.
we could have it at Pearlie
Does
if you
that work
want.
for you, Pam and
Sure.
Ron? Yes.
this is Monday, May 20?
Yeah. Does that work?
Yeah.
Yes. That doesn't happen often,
was gonna
that
say,
all of a
that's
sudden, we all,
So 7 o'clock at,
is 7 o'clock for you? I mean, I can do it at any time,
o'clock's
so. Okay, so we're doing Baker Adams, right.
At Pearlie. Usually it's the teacher's conference room or the teacher's
Do
lunchroom.
that,
Teacher's lunchroom or the conference room?
okay. Okay, so that's
so it'll be 7 p.m.
7 PM,
and then the next one is
all right.
23rd,
Yep.
right?
Okay, so
And the only other thing I'm wondering about is, there seemed to be some glitches with the process last year, right? In terms of like the rating and what weighted, and
what
how do you wanna handle
what-
that?
what I've done in the past, but it's up to it's up to you, completely up to you guys, is it's difficult because it's not a defined rating system. Like, we rate on the 5 criteria, but my perception of community service versus Pam's versus Rob's and Alana's and Barbie's is different. And it's all over the
We do define it, and you can put it on a spreadsheet, but then we can discuss.
right. You can define it,
and
but
then
you
we
can read it and
have
interpret it as
a more subjective evaluation assessment after you.
Well,
Right.
some of the issue
Put it
last
on a
year, was it
spreadsheet.
degree of weight? I thought there was some issues with the weight, like the essay, how much does the essay weight versus, and then there was a whole issue of financial
Financial
need.
aid. That was
Yeah, and
Like, how do
financial
you
need.
determine,
and financial
And
needs
that's not-
always been an issue because we don't get a financial aid form,
Right, there's
And-
different information.
and everyone fills it out a little differently.
Yes.
Yes. And it's extremely subjective.
Right, which is why discussion is really important.
Well, what are the
But-
students being told when they are applying?
well, that's
for
what I was
this?
curious about, what's the application say?
That's, I think we need to make sure that whatever we're doing to evaluate, we're evaluating in
They're
accordance
submitting.
with what the students believe they're being evaluated for,
Right.
and what they choose to emphasize. Now, anybody can misread or interpret. Obviously, anything we put in an application will be open to interpretation. Nonetheless, I think it would be in our best interest, perhaps, to maybe at our next meeting, review the application that the students are receiving so that we can have a discussion about how we want to rate and rank the applications once we've looked at what the application says. Can we do that?
You can. You can. I mean, another option is you could have like governance or somebody review it and then come back to the committee with a recommendation as to what the weight might be.
Yeah,
it
that
really,
might
it really
be-
just depends. It's hard. Like Rob and I had that conversation. It's like that's a delicate balance between like what kinds of work can get done here and is it efficient?
Okay.
But maybe that's something that could be done fairly efficiently here.
Why don't we have governance look at it
Okay.
include the application in the package, so everyone in the next
We can
meeting.
definitely include the packet.
So then,
We're
it-
meeting this week.
yeah,
can
so
actually
if
send it
governance
out.
can have it at the next meeting,
Yes.
so that way,
Laura, could we email
Um,
that application to the members? Because in preparation for that meeting, perhaps everybody should have a chance to look at the application. And then if you have comments or things you'd like governance to,
Would you like to
to
try?
or
Sure.
questions,
Yes.
you could forward them to governance.
That's a great
So-
idea.
yeah, that's,
So
yeah,
let's do that.
actually, that is a good idea. So are you meeting,
The
the
13th.
13th?
Yes.
And then we have a meeting on the 14th.
Okay, so, and then there's a meeting on the 14th. So will you be in a position to talk, do you want to be in a position to talk about it on the 14th?
Sure.
What time are we meeting on the 13th?
I was just gonna ask you that.
What date? I'm sorry.
On the 8:30?
8:30?
I didn't have my calendar.
Yes.
Yeah, we should be
We
able
should
to
be able
have
to
it.
do that.
fine
Yeah?
For the,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
next day.
Can you can email that out to every, so what's going to happen is Laura will email that out to everyone tomorrow, what the application looks like. You'll have to get feedback back to governance by
As quickly as possible.
by Tuesday night, because they're meeting on
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning.
Can you put that in the email, the deadline and that thing?
I am not here next Thursday night, so Rob's in charge.
Okay.
Okay.
I have something to go to.
No.
Yeah. So which is fine. Because you guys have all been through it once, so you know what you're looking at. So that'll be, which is fine.
The question I have too on those applications, is there, if we do have a question on them, are we, as a committee member, allowed to reach out to the applicant? If we have a question?
I would say not.
Okay.
I would say it's the student's responsibility to provide you with the information you need.
Yep.
And you need to make a judgment based on, because otherwise it's not fair to all the other students who don't
Right.
have that same opportunity.
Right.
Now, I wouldn't be sitting in on this meeting, right?
You wouldn't, Cole.
Yeah,
That's correct. You would not.
I was making
Although we
sure.
love your input, I don't think,
No, but you know
I
what?
don't think
Next,
you'd want to be in that situation.
Laura, we should make sure that email the application to Cole as well,
Yeah, we'd
and
like your
provide your
ideas.
feedback to the
Okay.
committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's clear, if you think, this is something students are gonna understand
Yeah, I
what,
was
what
planning on
is being
applying.
asked of them.
yeah, so you should you should really look at it and be critical of it and
Okay.
say I'm confused about
Or
this,
or
yeah.
even give us your input on how you understand the questions. What do you
Okay.
think we're looking for when
Yep.
you read the
Okay.
application? That would
That
be
would-
really useful.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I,
again, it's the perspective of
I
one
agree,
student,
yeah.
which may differ. So any information gathering you can get from anybody you know who plans to apply,
Well-
how they understand that.
yeah, no, and we
Yeah.
found like in the past, our student reps have given us great information. So anything you can gather and bring to the meeting.
well, I could honestly show it to my student council and have them review it, and by the next meeting that and within a week that'll be their homework or whatever to just review it and just see their feedback on what they understand as the questions, and I can just put
That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, no, that would be great.
yeah.
Yeah, and maybe their perception on what they think they're going to be evaluated on. I think that was to Alana's point. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We may say, this is what we emphasize, or it says in the application,
Because it
these
was
are
very
things you have to
clear to
respond
me
to.
that there were people who
25,
thought
25, right?
they were being evaluated
What
for
was the intention
something.
was equal
and-
weight.
And not the
And
others,
not
I know,
something
because some
else.
people
Yeah.
didn't
Yes.
talk about community service where others would
Yes, it was very
talk strictly
clear
about that,
they thought, you
or
know,
they would consider like babysitting, community service, whereas I wouldn't consider that if you were getting paid
Right.
for, I don't know.
But
Some
that
of them
brings
were
the
confusing.
subjectivity into it.
And it is a subjective.
It's completely subjective. It's tough. It's
And-
it's not an easy. It's not
We're-
easy.
We're trying to follow the intent of Baker Adams himself.
Right.
That's what we're trying to
Right.
do, and,
Which Laura always includes that nice
Yeah. well,
paragraph about what he's, right, I love that.
All right.
Okay. So
Okay,
that'll help
so
us
the-
make a decision.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the Baker Adams process and timeline with the revision of adding a meeting on May 20th at 7 o'clock at Pearlie to select the recipients.
So moved.
second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, and we are nearly done, I think.
I just had one thing to
Yes.
remind you about.
Thank you. That was on my list. Okay, just a couple of housekeeping items. PTA fashion show is on May 2nd, and they need middle high school volunteers to model. And they, from what I was able to gather from the notes that Cheryl O'Leary sends out, the applications are due by tomorrow. And you get community service if you're a high school student. So
Yeah, they still
please-
need some high school boys and middle high school boys and girls.
And if you email
Jen Greenfield.
Jen Greenfield at AJJE Greenfield, all one word, at yahoo.com, she will provide you with all the information that you can need.
Right.
And they probably could use some school committee models as well.
I'll be in Costa Rica.
All right, good for them. Moving right along.
What, no takers?
The G,
Or a superintendent.
I tell you, they're hitting me hard.
the GEF Gala,
You say yes to
their
everything
main
else.
fundraiser is on April 6th at the Black Swan, and it's Fire and Ice theme. So find GEF reps so you can get your tickets. And we
I'll
have,
have some
Or
tickets.
you can
I'll
get
have some
them
tickets.
online too, right?
I believe so.
GEF tickets.
I think I saw that on
Yes. you
the
Yes,
middle school
yes.
notes. Cole mentioned earlier the middle school play is April 5th and 6th, Friday night at 7 and Saturday at 2 o'clock. And finally, we already talked about a couple meetings that we have coming up, governance next week on Wednesday and safety on Thursday. And we have our budget presentation to Finance and Advisory Board on March 20th.
Oh, you know what, Ann? I'm trying to find it, but there's a National Honor Society,
Next Tuesday, the 12th.
Tuesday the 12th.
And what's the time for that budget presentation on March 20th?
I'm guessing 7 o'clock.
I would say 7 o'clock.
I have
And
7.
that's something that we all need to attend
Budget and finance, definitely. If you can,
on March 20th.
yeah, on March 20th. If you can come, great. But I also understand we've had 5 meetings this month.
Yeah. Is that here?
Yeah, it will be here.
Okay.
No need for executive session?
No, no.
All right. So Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, everybody. Have a great week.
Yes.